Sussex as fortunes go up in smoke. Harry's latest move is the final straw for King Charles. He has been pushing his luck with King Charles, but his latest move is said to have torpedoed any chance of a reconciliation. Hello and a very warm welcome to LVT News. Poor King Charles. He has not had a very good week, and it doesn't have anything to do with Queen Camilla limiting his time on the iPad so that he can practice his coronation speech, or because they are only showing some bark and hunt repeats. Instead, there is a lot that has been going on behind the scenes, and all of it is pretty bad news for the world's newest monarch. First of all, millions of friends decided to go out there to stage massive protests all across Paris, including even starting fires all over the place, and therefore they forced the government to cancel Charles' state visit. It was supposed to happen this week. Instead of him and Camilla being at Versailles with a big banquet in their honor, they had to stay home at Clarence's house and they had to reheat some leftovers. And then there was the news that troublesome brother, Prince Andrew, is considering writing a towel because he has too much time on his hands, and also he needs to fill his bank account. But perhaps the biggest stress in Charles's life right now has been his own son, Prince Harry, who this week decided to come back to the UK. On Monday, Harry got back to London for the first day of the court case that he and 6 other people are bringing against the Daily Mail's parent company over alleged phone hacking. Of course, the company has denied the claims. Nobody really expected Harry to show up because it was only a preliminary hearing and he was there just to watch proceedings because he was not giving any evidence and he could easily have watched the whole thing at home. But no, Harry had to show up just to make a point. He came to the High Court in a somber suit and he was looking very happy to finally have a chance to put the boot in the Fleet Street. So maybe I wasn't fair when I said that Harry needs to find a career for himself. I guess his new career is score settling and point making. And then things went from bad to worse for Charles when he discovered that his son had decided to show up in the UK and also demonstrated his refusal to not waste an opportunity to attack his own family. In a witness statement that was entered into the court record, Harry charged that the institution was without a doubt withholding information from me for a long time, and this was all over the phone hacking, of course. And then he also said that he had been conditioned to accept the policy was to never complain, never explain. It's like déjà vu. I mean, we have found ourselves here before so many times. Harry is going after Buckingham Palace yet again. But there was something different that happened this time, and that was Charles's reaction almost immediately after the news of Harry's comeback to London broke on Twitter. It was reported by The Telegraph that the king was too busy to see his son, and that was a line that was a little difficult to believe considering that last-minute cancellation by the. And now a friend of the king has revealed that Harry's choice to drag his family into his legal fight was what sounds a lot like the last straw for His Majesty. This friend spoke to the Daily Beast, Tom Sykes, and he said Harry has torpedoed any remaining bridges with this statement. It is just 6 weeks until the coronation, and the last thing Charles needs. The friend also talked about the fact that the king seemed unwilling to find even a little bit of a window to see his son. He told Psyche the trust is gone, and I think that's been made quite clear by the king refusing to. But it's not only Charles who doesn't want a visit from Harry. His older brother Prince William, fresh off a very successful trip to Poland in support of the war effort in Ukraine, was reportedly out of town for a vacation, which seems to be a polite way to say I want nothing to do with you. So where exactly were they? Well, he and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and their 3 kids might be off having some fun and matching hunter wellies at their country estate in Norfolk, and then there's also the possibility that they went skiing in France, which they do love, or of course, there is that tiny island off Cornwall that his father owns, or perhaps they were just enjoying some sunshine in the south of France where they went last year for her brother's wedding. I mean, I guess princes also have their problems. Now, according to this friend of Charles, William is over it, and why the friend said if this was about his vendetta with the Mail, that would be one thing. But Harry keeps doing everything in his power to try and embarrass the family. How can you have a relationship with someone who is doing And that could be the real thing that we need to pay attention to in all of this mess. There was no reason whatsoever that Harry needed to bring the palace or his family into this court action. The case can easily be made that he kind of had to take a few choices of the royal family in his and Meghan Netflix series. I mean, kind of, and also his memoir in order to keep their paymasters happy. But this court case? Realistically speaking, of course, these big corporations have shareholders and boards that they need to keep happy. They only paid millions to the royals without portfolio so that they could get the dirt, the tea, whatever you want to call it. They wanted juicy bits that may encourage audiences to click, subscribe and of course buy. But this court case is a different story. Harry could have pursued his action against the publisher without having to bring the palace into it. And who would have thought that after more than 2 years of talking about his family's various sins to the whole world, after an estimated 40 hours of media outings and a whole book, Harry is still holding on to so much anger, resentment and bitterness against his own. So alright, fine. Let's just assume that the royal family really failed Harry, especially as a grief-stricken child, but I mean, for a long time now, Harry has been failing his own family too. He has been failing to protect their privacy, and that is the very thing that he went to court to rail against by revealing intimate conversations and even text messages in his book Spare. Harry was also not there to support his family during some really rough times recently in February and March 2021. Their 99-year-old grandfather was in the hospital and it seemed obvious that this time he was not going to be coming back. Of course, there were still COVID restrictions in place, but still, did Harry even try to fly home to visit his grandfather one last time? No, absolutely not. Instead, he and Meghan decided to do that debacle of an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and the year after did Harry decide that it really was important to go spend some quality time with his grandmother, who, according to the biographer Giles Brandreth, was fighting bone cancer. Well, absolutely not. All Meghan and Harry managed to do was squeeze in a short little visit 24 hours on their way to The Hague for the Invictus Games, and then of course they Saturday down for a TV interview to discuss that private. So if Meghan and Harry decide to actually come back to London in only 6 weeks for the King's coronation, is Charles going to be too busy to see his son and daughter-in-law again? And what about William? Is William still going to ignore Harry's request for a short little meeting? I wouldn't be surprised. And just how many American talk show appearances are Meghan and Harry going to attempt to do in order to talk trash about Harry's family? The only sure thing in all of this is that is going to be an interesting show to watch, and I guess you're not even gonna need to pay for a Netflix subscription in order